Hi, I'm John. Welcome to my messy garage. This is just going to be a quick video on my HVLP sprayer. So if you're curious or you're considering an HVLP sprayer and you're wondering about how easy they are to use or clean up or what you can spray with them or how the finish turns out, stick around and I'll be going over my experiences with my Fuji Semi-Pro 2 sprayer. So for years I've wiped on finishes. I've used t-shirts, I've used foam brushes, in some cases with paint I've rolled it on, and primer I've rolled on, and I found the whole finishing process to be pretty trying. So I really like building things, but I was really frustrated with the finishing process. And so about 5 years ago I went ahead and splurged and got the Fuji Semi-Pro 2 sprayer, and so now I basically spray everything. I spray everything I can, and I really actually enjoy finishing. I've just finished up on a bunch of drawers. So that would have taken me with a foam brush forever to do. And I did all of those. There's actually a load of them. I have some more on the ground over there that you can't see. But I did all of those in a day. So I got 3 coats on those in a day. I was spraying a water-based polyurethane. It's a Varathane polyurethane, and it's water-based. And it sprays on great. And like I said, I actually enjoy finishing now. So I found the Semi-Pro 2 is easy to set up. It's easy to use. If I can use it, anyone can use it. It's also easy to clean, and there's not a ton of overspray. So I sprayed all of, I think there's 11 drawers. I sprayed them all right here. I didn't actually set up anything else, and so I was spraying that way. And while obviously on this cardboard, I can feel the polyurethane. There's not a ton of overspray and I think that's pretty typical of HVLP sprayers. The Fuji Semi-Pro 2 turbine is a 2-stage motor, and the stages are just the number of fans that a turbine has. And the fans, obviously, the more fans that you have, the greater the increase in the air volume and pressure that you can supply to the sprayer. And so the more pressure and air volume you can move through the sprayer, the better it will atomize the finish. And so you can get smaller and smaller droplets of the finish, which obviously look a lot better than big splatters. So I've found that the Semi-Pro 2 sprays light to medium viscosity products pretty well. I don't use the viscosity cup thing that comes with it, which is it's basically like a scoop with a hole in the bottom, and it allows you to measure how quickly the fluid drains through the cup. I just don't use that, and what I try and do is I try and lift up a stir stick and make sure that the material is flowing off of the stir stick fairly easily, I haven't really had any problems with what I spray. Now I only spray polyurethane and dyes or stains. I combine dye and polyurethane for toning coats, and that works great. I've sprayed stains, and they work fine. I find that it works better when you spray lighter coats and build up, kind of like anything else that you do with even with putting finishes on with a brush. It seems to always work better when you don't go too heavy. The unit itself is pretty small. This is it right here, and this is the area that gets really hot. This is where the air is coming out, and this is the standard hose that comes with, or at least came with the one that I bought. And again, this area right here that attaches, this area gets hot. So you don't want to grab that after it's been running for a little while. Now I got the whip hose that goes with this, which is a lighter hose that it's only 6 feet, and it attaches to the hose that comes with the unit. And these are just like faucet, outside faucet connections. So the whip hose makes it a little bit easier to get into and maneuver around in smaller places. And the other thing on the hose is there is actually has an air control valve right here. However, the manual said not to mess with it unless you really know what you're doing, so I've never changed it. I always leave it wide open the way it came from the factory. It's definitely worthwhile to buy extra of these filters. There's a coarse filter and a fine filter, and I have an extra of each one so that if I've been spraying for a little while, then I can just take these out and wash them with water, clean them out, and then I can put the other ones in. I don't have to wait for these to dry before I put them back in. So it's definitely worth getting an extra set of the filters. Now I have the unit that I bought came with the 1.3 millimeter cap set, and I went ahead and bought the 1.5 millimeter cap set also. So I use those kind of interchangeably for what I spray. For the most part, I use the 1.3, but these drawers I did with the 1.5, and it flowed the polyurethane out pretty well. Although I've sprayed the same polyurethane with the 1.3 also. So the Semi-Pro 2 is what's considered a non-bleed sprayer. So when the unit's on, when the turbine's running, there's no air coming out of the gun unless you're pulling the trigger. And the way it works is if you pull the trigger halfway, then you can get air. So it's handy to just make sure if there's a little bit of dust or something, you can blow the air off without actually moving any material through the unit. And then when you're ready to spray, then you'll pull it past that that initial point. And then you'll start spraying material out. So I really like that when the sprayer's on, when the turbine's on, that there's not air coming out of the unit or the gun. That was one of the reasons I went with this the sprayer in the first place. I also got the one that I ordered. It came with the 1 quart cup that attached to the bottom. Here, it wasn't one of the gravity feed ones. You have an option to either get the gravity feed or the 1 quart cup, and I just went with the 1 quart cup. It is pressurized, so it works really well. However, after I used it for probably about a year or 2 years, I saw the mini cups, and so I went ahead and got those. And they come in a set of 3. They're pretty pricey. But I really like them, and I'm glad I got them. So you can fill them up with whatever you're spraying, leave them overnight, and then come back and spray the next day. And they're airtight. It's pretty nice, and they obviously just screw right onto here. They allow you to get into a little bit smaller areas than you would if you had the bigger 1 quart cup. One of the downsides with these that I found, and one of the things that's nice about the quart size, is I use these cheap filters to filter basically everything I spray. And it's nice with the quart because I used to be able to just put it right in the quart and dump the material right in there, and it worked really well. Now that doesn't work for these little cups because it would basically come out the sides. So I haven't found any other filters, and so what I usually do is I'll just use an intermediate plastic cup, and I'll filter into this, and then I'll dump it into the 3 little cups. So. And that's one of the other downsides is these little guys just don't hold that much. It holds about a cup of water, I think, or I mean a cup of fluid of whatever you're spraying. but I find these really handy. And so for spraying these drawers, I just kept all 3 of them filled up with polyurethane, and I would go through them and then just refill them again, and that seemed to work pretty well. Yeah, so I do strain everything before spraying it. Initially I was using the little strainers that go on the end of the tube, but what I found was, especially for stains, that they were getting clogged, and they look like so they look like this. It's just a little strainer that slides on. It's got mesh on it, and it slides on the tube, and it basically sits there and strains the material. But what I found was that that the mesh would get clogged, and so I ended up having to take them off, and I was going through them fairly quickly, and then I would clean them in the evening, and it just didn't make any sense to keep doing it. You can see these are ones that I used when I was spraying some stain, and they would just get clogged, and so I don't use those anymore. I just filter everything up front, and I haven't had any problems. So the spray controls on this are pretty straightforward. And maybe I'll put it together. So putting it this is it broken down. Putting it together is very easy. Now, what I'll do is I normally put a little drop of oil right here, and I'll just move it around right here. I'm not going to do that right now, but that does help it to slide in easier. Obviously, you don't want to get the oil up around the tip. You don't want that in what you're spraying. But that's it. That's all there is to. So pop that on and you're ready to start spraying, and this hooks right onto the whip hose. So it's really quick to get up and running, and then to break it down and clean it is really quick also. But back to the controls. So there's not a lot of controls on here. It has the basically how your pattern is going to come out of the gun. So this spray pattern will basically be horizontal. This one will be vertical, and it's easy to see. If you just fill it up with some water and spray it, you can tell that. Okay, so this controls the how tight the pattern is. So when it's all the way over here, it's going to be as fanned out as possible, and when you turn it all the way straight up and down, it will be almost like a circle. This controls the volume of the material that's actually going to flow out, so that I always start with it in completely closed off, and then I'll just start opening it up as I'm spraying on some test cardboard to see when I get the right pattern that I'm trying to for whatever I'm spraying. So I find it's really helpful to have a remote control hooked up to turn the turbine on and off. My turbine sits right back against my garage door. And so I basically repurposed this remote that I use from my dust collector, and just plug my turbine into it when I'm spraying it, because obviously I'm not using those two things at the same time. But this is just a cheap remote that works great for that. One of the things that I have noticed when I spray that I didn't see mentioned anywhere is that I find it really helpful to always, or in between sessions, to dab off just the front of the sprayer, right where the tip is, with a wet paper towel. So I keep a container of water, and then I'll just basically dab it in the water, and I just rub it around there so it's wet. And I didn't do that when I first started spraying, and there were a couple of times where in between sessions, like maybe I allow a couple of hours for it to dry, and I come back and I start spraying again, where I wasn't actually getting any fluid out, and so I started wiping it with a wet paper towel after every time I spray, in between sessions, and it works great. I've never had that problem again. So I assume that something must have gotten some of the whatever I was spraying basically dried on the tip, and was somehow preventing the fluid from flowing through. Another thing that I use is a bucket, and I basically use it to hang this so that when I'm spraying, obviously this would be on the ground, but when I'm spraying, I'll just use this to put the gun on there in between in between sessions, while I'm waiting for one session whatever I've just sprayed to dry. It's handy to put it on there. The other thing it's handy for is when you're done and you need to run whatever the appropriate cleaning solution through your sprayer is, and for me it's always water, because I only use water base, just because it's just easier to clean. I'll just load up a bunch of these with water, and then I'll attach them to the gun, and then I just drape like a rag or an old sweatshirt over the bucket, and I'll just open everything up so it's spraying as much as possible. Put that in there, and then I'll just spray, and I usually do 3 full of these little guys through there, and that seems to completely clean everything out. So in terms of cleaning up the gun, that's really it. Like after that, you can take it apart and rinse. You can rinse the parts off if you like, but there's really not much more to cleaning it up, and that's one of the things I love about it, is it's just so easy to clean, and the breakdown is really easy too. So there's not much to this. That's it. If I was using a foam brush, I would just throw that out, so that was actually really quick. But this does not take as long, and the amount of time it saves you in applying it is ridiculous. So at least for me, it's a no-brainer, and the result is a lot better too. Like I find that I can put on like a lot of really thin coats and build up the finish, or a lot of toning coats and get the finish to be the color that I'm looking for, and it's so much easier than messing around with a t-shirt or a foam brush or rubbing stuff on there, trying to get it even, and that for me was frustrating. So yeah, so the bucket is definitely a handy thing to have around when you're doing it. The other thing you definitely want is you want to have some kind of vapor filter that you can, respirator that you can use, and eye protection. You definitely want to have eye protection. Even spraying in these drawers, and even with just the 2 stage turbine, the spray really does come back at you. So if you don't have these, you're going to polyurethane your eyeballs, and you really don't want to do that. I also use some ear protection when spraying. And another thing that's super handy to have is a rotating table. Now, I built this a long time ago, and it's just from some cheap, it's just a cheap Lazy Susan hardware, and it's super easy. You can find a video online to put one together, but this is really handy. Now I've used this for end tables, for drawers, for little pieces of furniture that I can, sometimes I'll extend it by putting like 2x4s across here, just so I can rotate it. It's really super handy, and this is definitely something that you will thank yourself for. It makes it a lot easier rather than having to walk around something that you can just move the thing around and spray. Another thing that's pretty useful to have in case something blows into the finish, or you're just trying to like dab away something, is to keep a foam brush with you. So I keep a little foam brush, and if something gets in the finish, I find it's a lot easier to deal with a foam brush than if I was just getting my finger and trying to do it. Additionally, if you get too heavy of a coat on and you have a little, this would be useless, but if you get a bigger foam brush, you can actually kind of smooth it out a little bit and kind of deal with the orange peel before it hardens and is a bigger problem. So those are definitely handy to have. Well, that's it. Just a few notes on my Fuji Semi-Pro 2 HVLP sprayer. If I could go back in time, I would buy the same gun again. I love this thing. Completely changed how I feel about finishing. And at the time, I was thinking about saving up more money and maybe getting a 3-stage turbine. But I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I just went and got this because as you go up, they definitely get way more pricey. So this thing has been great. I'm very happy with it, and I would definitely do it again. So it's a couple of quick notes. If you stuck around to this point, I hope you found something useful, and thanks for checking out my video.